of the RMB right now gives China somewhere between a 20 and 30% advantage. Now, that's just one component. Let's take a look at duties. American products going into China are taxed about 500% more than Chinese products coming into the United States. But it's not just duties, because local taxes, value-added taxes, are imputed on top of duties. So you have a multiplying effect. So if you put all that together, I estimate my products going into China are artificially overpriced by about 50%. Now, I can tell you as an American exporter, if our products were priced properly, our sales in China would skyrocket.
Bill, China says it accepts that trade with the U.S. must lead to mutual benefits. But what's the incentive for Beijing to address its trading advantage, which is so huge? What's the incentive? What's China's incentive to change things?
Because China realizes how important it is to plan. Hello? No? I'll speak loudly.
Or use my voice.
I wish I could. Realizes this is a partnership, and they have to realize that China relies so much now on our importing their products. And of course, this relationship is so much more than economic, but just on the economic side, it is becoming increasingly interdependent. I think this is a point that Secretary Paulson has made recently as well. It's increasingly interdependent and increasingly close, and it's inevitable we're going to have issues, investment issues, commercial issues between two great countries. And I think my point would be, I'd just like to touch on your first question, SED, is it never or is it real? It's necessary. And the results are going to be marginal. We've had this Joint Commission on Commerce and Trade for 20 some odd years, which, people will say, well, if you look at one meeting, there hasn't been a lot of progress. You look over the years, there's been enormous progress on more specific issues. The strategic economic dialogue is more looking at macro issues and structural issues. And I think that a number of the issues that you mentioned need to be addressed on a bilateral basis. And this is one way to do it.
Your department in May slapped a tariff on coated paper imports from China. China called that politicizing trade issues and said it was unacceptable. Was that a sign of things to come on the U.S. side? A get tough approach with what is often seen as unfair competition? Make some news.
Well,
go ahead, you're on.
I think that, we have this engagement, and when we have a bilateral dialogue that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, then we will go to U.S. remedies like this or the WTO settlement. So I think to the extent that we are not making the progress that we think we need, we definitely will go to U.S. remedies. Now, on that issue, we haven't had any anti-subsidy cases in non-market economies for years, and this is the first one we've had with China. So I'm not going to say it's going to continue, but I know that we're looking at a second case.
Richard, what do you make of Paulson's dialogue with the Chinese? Valuable?
I was thinking this is going on with the 50-some factories I've worked with. We've spent more time talking about the politics of trade today than we did in those factories over 13 years. Most of the time, we're concerned about making a product and selling it. The strategic dialogue generally isn't related to the factory. And unfortunately, when a paper manufacturer becomes irate and it starts to politicize the relationship between the U.S. and China, then it begins to affect every other company that has nothing to do with paper.
Trevor, what do you think Hu Jintao was talking about when he said he wanted both the U.S. and China to be each other's stakeholders?
There was when I thought I was power either.
No, you're on.
Oh, I'm on. When Bob Selleck first used that term, stakeholders, there was this kind of flurry of Beijing of translators trying to figure out what it actually meant. So who knows what Hu Jintao actually meant? I think what he means is that if you look at the global imbalances, right? China's half of that equation, and the U.S. is half of that equation, right? We have a global trade deficit, not just a trade deficit with China, but a trade deficit with the world, and China's just a piece of that. And China now has a global trade surplus, and a piece of that is with the U.S. And so we both have a mutual interest in righting these imbalances in the economy together.
Well, try this scenario. Answering our dreams, China dramatically builds up its domestic consumption. And then our worst nightmare, instead of letting us help fill the gap in demand, the Chinese do it with their own products. What are the chances of that, Neal?
Oh, it's very real, and I think that you don't have to read the tea leaves to see what's going on here. What is President Yu mean by stakeholders? He means we sell, you buy. I mean, that is the way that they are trying to employ these hundreds of millions of peasants who are coming from the countryside to the cities. And it's a huge problem of instability. And the thing that scares the Communist Party in Beijing more than anything is a workers' uprising. And unfortunately, we're being bombarded by these products, in my opinion, unfairly being priced and sold in our marketplace, to solve a domestic Chinese problem.
Phil, take a shot at that.
Yeah, I think we are looking forward to China actually becoming more of a consumer-led economy. Over the last 35 years, I think our two main goals have really been to help China move to a rules-based system and to help internationalize its economy. And to the extent that that will be the case, I can see that our products will be competitive in that market. There's no reason they shouldn't be if we can keep these tariffs lowered and these barriers to trade lowered, and it becomes a country with rule of law and with a stronger IPR regime. This is really what we're shooting for, so I don't see that increased consumer-driven economy can be a
Senator John McCain, in a Republican presidential debate last month, said, "Free trade is an engine of our economy, period. So forget about what he called China bashing." Is that what's going on here, China bashing? Or is it a growing feeling in this country that China trades too one-sided and too expensive to our own industries and workers? Richard?
The city of Shenzhen, in the province of Guangdong, right around Hong Kong, has a population of 90 million. James Fellows suggests that there are probably 18 million people working there in manufacturing. In the United States, we only have 14 million people working in manufacturing. That's a little frightening. Between Beijing and Tianjin, it's a 90-mile corridor, about 20 miles wide. There are enough people there to elect half the U.S. Senate. It's a huge country with enormous demand. And they're producing things that Americans want. Now, of the 14 million people in the United States working in manufacturing, how many of them are making things that we could export?